The human ship drifted at the edge of the broken star zone, where light bent in strange ways and silence felt heavy. The pilot sat alone in the small control room, watching the soft glow of distant fires in space. His name was not important to the stars, but to his people he was known as someone who did not turn away when others were in trouble. The mission had been simple: carry medical supplies to a nearby human outpost and return home. No danger was expected. The war between the alien kingdoms and their enemies was far away, or so he was told. But space had its own plans, and the distress signal reached him before he could change course. The screen flashed with symbols he had learned to recognize. It was not a human call. It came from a royal convoy of the alien queen moving through a dangerous path of broken rocks and drifting metal from old battles. The signal was weak, fading in and out like a heartbeat that might stop at any moment. The human leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes for a second. He knew what the rules said. Do not enter a war zone. Do not interfere in alien conflicts. Do not risk your ship for unknown forces. But he also remembered the words taught to him when he first learned to fly. If someone calls for help, and you can answer, then you answer. He turned the ship toward the signal. As he moved closer, the stars disappeared behind clouds of dust and glowing fragments. The area was filled with floating stones, broken ships, and sharp metal edges that could tear through shields like paper. His radar showed several large alien vessels moving slowly, their energy low, their paths blocked. The convoy was under attack, not by enemy ships, but by the space itself. A minefield of old weapons drifted between the rocks, invisible to most sensors. One wrong move would mean fire and silence. On the largest alien ship, the Queen stood in her command hall, her long robe flowing like water under the soft light. Her eyes were fixed on the screen showing the damaged convoy. Her daughter stood beside her, trying to stay calm, though fear showed in the way her hands clenched.
"We are trapped," one of the officers said.
Our guides are gone. The path ahead is blocked. The Queen did not speak. She had ruled through war and peace, through loss and victory. But now even her power could not move a mountain of space. Then a small dot appeared on the edge of the screen. "It's a human ship," another officer said, surprise in his voice. "It is moving toward us." The Queen narrowed her eyes. Why would a human come here? On the human ship, the pilot's hands moved fast over the controls. He studied the field, marking safe paths where the rocks drifted slower, where the mines had already exploded or failed. His ship was small, fast, and not built for battle, but it could move where larger ships could not. He opened a channel. "This is a human pilot," he said, keeping his voice steady.
I see you're in trouble. Follow my signal."
"Move slow and stay close to my path." The alien officers looked at each other. Trusting a human was not something they were taught to do. The Queen's daughter stepped forward.
"We don't have another choice," she said softly. The Queen nodded once.
"Let him lead." The human ship moved into the field, weaving between silent dangers. He released small, light beacons that marked the safe way. One by one, the alien ships followed, their massive forms moving carefully through the narrow path. A sudden flash lit the space behind them. One of the mines had gone off too close. The shockwave threw the human ship forward, alarms filling the control room with red light and sharp sounds. He gritted his teeth and pulled the controls, steadying the ship. Smoke rose from a broken panel, but the engines still answered. He did not stop. He could not stop. On the royal ship, the queen's daughter watched the small human craft fight through the blast, her breath caught in her chest. "He's still going." The queen said nothing, but her eyes followed every move. The path grew tighter, the rocks closer. The human ship scraped against metal and stone, sparks flying past the window. His shields dropped lower with every second. His hands shook, not from fear, but from the weight of what he was doing. He remembered his home, a small blue world where the sky was wide and the ground felt solid under his feet. He remembered the faces of people who had trusted him before. He thought of how strange it was that now, in the cold dark of space, he was fighting to save beings who did not even look like him. The last beacon flickered as they reached the open space beyond the field. "Convoy, you're clear," he said, his voice tired but steady. The alien ships moved into safety, their engines glowing bright as they formed a protective circle around the royal vessel. Cheers filled the command hall. The queen's daughter closed her eyes in relief, but the human ship drifted, its lights dim. "He's losing power," an officer said. "His engines are failing." "Bring him in," the queen ordered. "Now." A rescue craft moved out and gently pulled the human ship toward the royal vessel. The pilot leaned back in his seat as the last of his energy faded. He felt the soft pull of another force guiding him in. When he opened his eyes again, he was not in his ship. He lay on a smooth surface under a bright ceiling that glowed like a calm sky. The air smelled clean and strange. He tried to sit up, but a gentle hand pressed him back down. "Rest," a soft voice said, in a tone that carried both strength and kindness. He turned his head and saw the queen's daughter standing beside him. Her eyes were not like any human eyes he had seen before, but in them he saw something he understood. Gratitude, curiosity, a quiet question about who he really was. "You're safe," she said. "My mother wants to see you when you are ready." He nodded slowly, still finding his balance in this new world. In the command hall, the queen stood alone for a moment, looking out at the stars. She had seen many warriors, many leaders, many who claimed to be strong. But today, a single human in a small ship had shown a different kind of strength. Not power, not fear, choice. And she knew, deep in her heart, that this choice would change more than just one day in a distant part of space. It would change the future of two worlds that had never truly looked at each other before. Far beyond the royal ship, the stars continued to burn and shine, unaware that a simple act of courage had just begun a story that would be remembered across galaxies. The human woke to a soft humming sound, like wind moving through distant trees. His eyes opened slowly, and light filled his vision, warm and gentle instead of sharp. The room was wide and round, with walls that glowed in calm colors. He felt light, as if the weight of space had not followed him inside. He sat up carefully. His body ached, but the pain was fading. Thin bands of soft light wrapped around his arms and chest, not tight, but steady, like a quiet promise that he was being cared for. The door opened without a sound. Two alien guards stepped inside, their armor smooth and shaped like flowing water. Between them walked the queen's daughter. She moved with grace, but her eyes showed thought, not pride.
"You are awake," she said. The human nodded.
"I guess I am." She gave a small smile. "You saved many lives. My mother wishes to speak with you." They guided him through long halls that curved like rivers of light. High windows showed the stars moving past, slow and endless. He felt small, but not afraid. The ship felt alive, like a city traveling through the sky. They entered the great hall. The queen sat on a raised platform made of crystal and metal. Light from above formed a soft crown around her, though she did not need it to look powerful. Her presence filled the space, not with fear, but with deep control. The human stopped a few steps forward. He did not bow, not because he meant disrespect, but because he did not know how. He simply stood still. "You turn back?" the queen said. Her voice was calm, but it carried through the hall like a quiet storm. "You risked your ship, your life, for those you do not know. Why?" The human thought for a moment. He looked at the floor, then back at her. "Because someone was calling for help," he said. "That's what we do." The queen studied him. Her eyes moved across his face, his hands, the simple clothes he wore. "You knew this was not your war," she said. "Yes," he replied. "You knew you might not return," she said. "Yes? And still you came." He nodded. "Ah." A low sound passed through the hall as the nobles and officers whispered among themselves. Some looked impressed, others looked uneasy. The queen raised her hand, and silence returned. "Humans," she said slowly, "are known in many systems. Some see you as weak. Some see you as dangerous. Today, I see something else." She stood. "You see bonds where others see borders," she said. "You act where others calculate." The queen's daughter watched the human from the side. Her thoughts were mixed. She had grown up with guards, teachers, and rules. She had never met someone who stood before her mother with nothing but simple words and honest eyes. The queen turned to her council. "Our convoy was saved by this one human. The galaxy will hear of this. Our enemies will hear of this." One of the nobles stepped forward. "Your Majesty, if we honor him too greatly, it may be seen as weakness. A human inside our royal halls sends a message we may not control." The queen looked at him. "It sends exactly the message I choose." She turned back to the human. "You will stay," she said. "You will be our guest." The word guest did not sound like a command, but it felt like one. The human nodded. "I don't really have a ship to go back to." A small ripple of soft laughter moved through the hall. The days that followed felt like a strange dream. The human was given a room that looked out at the stars. Servants brought him food that tasted different, but warm and rich. The queen's daughter visited often, asking him about Earth, about oceans, trees, and skies that were not made of metal and light. He told her about rain that smelled like dust and leaves, about cities that glowed at night like fallen stars, about quiet places where the wind moved through tall grass. She listened closely, as if each word was a window to a world she had never imagined. But not everyone welcomed him. Some nobles watched him with cold eyes. They whispered in halls and behind doors. A human in the royal ship meant change, and change meant risk. One evening, as the human walked through a garden inside the ship, where glowing plants grew in floating pools of water, a noble approached him. "You wear no rank," the noble said. "No armor. No sign of power. And yet you walk where only leaders walk." The human shrugged. "I just follow where I'm told." The noble leaned closer. "You should remember your place." The human met his gaze. "I know my place," he said. "It's wherever I can help." The noble turned away, unsettled by the simple answer. That night, the queen called another meeting. The hall filled with leaders from different worlds, their forms and colors showing the wide reach of her rule. Screens lit up with distant faces, watching from ships and planets far away. The queen stood in the center. "Our enemies grow bold," she said. They test our borders.
They look for weakness.
She paused. Today they see a human in our halls. Tomorrow they will wonder why. The council waited. Nod. I will not hide strength behind walls, the queen said. I will show it, in unity. She turned, and her gaze moved to the human standing near the edge of the hall.
I will bind our future to his people, she said.
The hall erupted in voices. The queen raised her hand. This human saved my daughter, she continued. He showed loyalty without promise of reward. I will answer that loyalty with trust. She took a step forward. He will join our royal line. The words fell into the hall like thunder. The human's heart raced. Join how? The queen looked at him, steady and unshaken. You will be bound to my daughter. The queen's daughter froze. The room felt too quiet, too still. The human opened his mouth, then closed it again. His mind searched for words and found none. I did not come for this, he said finally, not in anger, but in truth. I know, the queen replied. That is why I chose you. The queen's daughter stepped forward. Mother, she said softly, this is not a decision for one voice. The queen's expression softened. No, she said. It is a decision for two worlds, the council argued. Some feared angering other alien powers. Some feared trusting humans. Some saw opportunity. The human stood in the middle of it all, feeling smaller than ever before. Later, in the quiet of the garden, the queen's daughter found him sitting by the glowing water. I'm sorry, she said. This is not how I wished for you to be welcomed. He looked at the stars above. I didn't plan on staying, he said, but I didn't plan on leaving people behind either. My life has always been decided by duty, she said, but today I saw someone choose without being told. They sat in silence for a while. Far away, alarms echoed through the ship. A message arrived from the outer systems. Enemy forces were moving closer. The queen stood in her command hall looking at the maps of space and light. The galaxy is watching, she said. Let them see what happens when humans and aliens do not stand apart, but together. The human and the queen's daughter were called to her side. This was no longer just a rescue. It was the beginning of something larger. Outside the ship, stars burned and turned, silent witnesses to a bond forming between two worlds that had never truly trusted each other before. The royal ship moved through space like a silent city of light. Outside, stars passed slowly, but inside, everything felt fast and heavy with thought. The human walked the long halls, hearing his footsteps echo on smooth floors that shone like water. Every turn reminded him that he was far from home and deep inside a world that was not built for him. Word of the queen's decision had spread across the ship. Some looked at him with curiosity, some with respect, others with doubt. He did not blame them. He felt the same doubts inside himself. He stopped at a wide window and looked out at the endless dark. Back on Earth, he would look up and see a sky full of stars. Here, he was inside the stars, and it made him feel both strong and very small. The queen's daughter found him there. You always look at the stars, she said. They help me think, he replied. They remind me that no matter how big a problem feels, the universe is still bigger. She stood beside him, folding her hands together. In my world, the stars are symbols of power and rule. We name them after victories and leaders. You speak of them like friends. He smiled softly. Maybe that's the difference between us. The queen had ordered that they spend time together, not as a command, but as a chance. She believed that bonds did not grow from words spoken in a hall, but from moments shared in quiet places. Their first task together came sooner than expected. A message arrived from a nearby system where a group of smaller alien worlds had gathered. They were afraid. Enemy forces had been seen near their space, and they wanted protection. The queen decided to send her daughter as a symbol of trust and peace. The human was asked to go with her. The journey took them through calm space at first, then into areas where broken ships and silent stations floated like memories of old battles. The queen's daughter watched the human as he studied the maps and controls.
You know this kind of space? She said. I know danger, he answered.
It looks the same no matter where you're from. When they arrived, the smaller world's leaders met them in a wide-open station that hung between two blue stars. The station was old, its walls marked by time and worry. Some of the leaders looked at the queen's daughter with hope. Others looked at the human with surprise. "A human?" one of them said. "Why bring a human here?" The queen's daughter did not answer at once. She looked at the human, then back at the leader. "Because he understands what it means to stand when others are afraid," she said. The meeting began with careful words and quiet voices. Plans were made. Patrols were discussed. Safe paths were drawn across glowing screens. Then the alarms sounded. Enemy ships appeared on the edge of the system, dark shapes moving like shadows. The station shook as power systems shifted into defense mode. Panic spread through the hall. The human moved without thinking. He ran to a control panel and started helping the station's crew redirect energy to shields and engines. He did not know all their systems, but he knew how to solve problems under pressure. The queen's daughter stood at the center, her voice steady as she spoke to the leaders. "We will not run," she said. "We will stand together." The enemy ships did not attack at once. They circled, testing defenses, waiting for fear to break the line. The human looked at the queen's daughter. "They're waiting for us to fall apart," he said. She nodded. "Then we won't." A small transport ship inside the station lost power and drifted toward open space. It carried civilians, families who had come seeking safety. The human saw it on the screen. "I'm going after them," he said. Before anyone could stop him, he ran toward a docked ship. It was not built for combat, but it could fly. The queen's daughter followed. "You won't go alone." They launched together, their small ship cutting through space toward the drifting transport. Enemy ships turned, noticing the movement. The human guided their ship close, matching speed with the transport. He locked the two vessels together and helped pull the civilians back to safety. One of the enemy ships fired, the blast passing close enough to shake them hard. The queen's daughter held on to the side of the console, her eyes wide but focused.
"We need to move," she said. The human pushed the engines, turning their ship back toward the station.
The enemy ships followed, but as they neared, the station's defenses flared to life. Beams of light crossed space, forcing the enemy back. The attack ended as quickly as it began. The enemy ships retreated into the dark. Silence returned. Inside the station, the leaders looked at the human and the queen's daughter with new eyes. Fear had turned into something else. Respect. Later, in a quiet room, the queen's daughter sat across from the human. "You could have stayed safe," she said. "You didn't have to go." He leaned back in his chair. "I keep hearing that," he said, "and I keep doing it anyway." She studied him. "On my world, strength is shown by command, by control. You show it by action." He looked down at his hands. "I just do what feels right." When they returned to the royal ship, the queen was waiting. She listened as her daughter told the story. The rescue. The attack, the way the smaller worlds had stood together. The queen looked at the human for a long moment. "You carry more than courage," she said. "You carry influence. Others follow you without you asking." The human shook his head. "I don't want followers," he said. "I just want people to be okay." The queen smiled, a rare and small expression. "That is why they follow." Not all were pleased. A group of nobles met in secret, speaking in low voices. "This human is changing too much," one said. "He stands beside the queen's daughter as if he belongs here." "He makes us look weak," another replied. "Our people see him and start asking questions." Their words did not stay hidden for long. The human felt the change in the air. Conversation stopped when he entered rooms. Guards watched more closely. Smiles became rare. The queen's daughter noticed too. "Some are afraid," she said. "Not of you, of what you represent." "What do I represent?" he asked. "Choice," she said. "The idea that things do not have to stay the way they are." One night, as they walked through the garden, a message arrived. The queen's ship had been challenged by a powerful alien leader who opposed the union with humans. He demanded a public trial of worth, a test of strength and honor. The queen accepted. The challenge would take place on a neutral world, watched by many systems. The human stood on a wide stone platform under an open sky that glowed purple and gold. Across from him stood the challenger's champion, tall and armored, carrying a weapon made of light and metal. The crowd was silent. The queen's daughter watched from the side, her hands clasped tightly. The challenger spoke. "This human claims a place among rulers. Let him prove he is not just a symbol, but a force." The human stepped forward. He did not raise a weapon. He raised his hands. "I'm not here to fight," he said. "I'm here to show that strength doesn't always come from breaking things. Sometimes it comes from holding them together." The champion hesitated. The crowd murmured. The challenger laughed. "Then you have already lost." The champion moved. The human did not attack. He moved aside, using the ground, the space, and the moment. He let the champion's strength work against him, guiding the heavy strikes away, turning force into balance. The fight ended when the champion fell, not hurt, but off balance and unable to rise in time. The crowd fell silent. Then slowly, sound grew.
Not cheers, not anger.
Understanding. The challenger stepped back. "You did not win by power," he said. "You won by control." The human shook his head. "I won by not needing to win." The queen's daughter felt something shift inside her. She saw him not just as a brave human, not just as a guest, but as a partner in a future she had not known she wanted. When they returned to the ship, the queen spoke to them both. "What you are building," she said, "is more than peace. It is a new path, one that others will try to follow." The human and the queen's daughter stood side by side, looking out at the stars once more. The galaxy still held dangers, still held fear, but now it also held something else. A bond forged not by command, not by force, but by choice, trust, and the simple act of standing together when it mattered most. The stars outside the royal ship glowed like quiet fires in the dark. The human stood by the wide window, watching light stretch and bend as the ship moved forward. The galaxy felt different now. Not safer, not calmer, but more open, like a door that had been unlocked. Behind him, soft footsteps approached. The queen's daughter stopped beside him. "The messages are coming in from many worlds," she said. "Some are hopeful, some are afraid. All of them are watching." He nodded. That usually means something important is happening. She looked at him. It is. And you are in the center of it, whether you want to be or not. Before he could answer, the lights in the hall shifted. A low sound echoed through the ship. Not an alarm, but a call to gather. The Queen had summoned them. The great hall filled with leaders, guards, and glowing screens showing faces from distant systems. The Queen stood at the center, her presence steady and strong. Our enemies move again, she said, not with ships, but with fear. News from different worlds, stories twisted and changed, telling others that humans were taking control, that the Queen had lost her way, that the bond between worlds was a threat, not a bridge. They want to divide us before we can stand together? The Queen continued. The human stepped forward without thinking. Then don't let them speak alone, he said. Let people see us. Let them hear the truth, not just the rumors. The hall went quiet. The Queen studied him. And what is the truth, human? He took a breath. That no one here is trying to rule the galaxy. We're trying to protect it. Together, the Queen's daughter looked at him, her eyes bright. The Queen nodded slowly. Then we will show them. A gathering was planned on a neutral world, one that belonged to no single power. Leaders, travelers, and citizens from many systems would be invited. Not for war. Not for command, for witness. The world they chose was wide and green, with long fields under a blue sky. The human felt something warm in his chest when he stepped onto the ground. It reminded him of home. Platforms were set across the fields, and ships filled the sky like silent birds. Beings of many shapes and colors gathered, their voices mixing into a low hum of sound and curiosity. The Queen stood at the center platform. The Queen's daughter stood beside her. The human stood on the other side, feeling every eye on him. The Queen raised her hand, and the crowd grew still. For generations, she said, we have believed that strength comes from standing above others, from walls, from fleets, from fear. She looked out at the gathered worlds. Today you see something different. A human stands beside my daughter, not as a ruler, not as a conqueror, but as a choice. She turned to the human. Why did you come here, to this moment, to this place? He felt his heart beat in his chest. He thought of the minefield, the drifting transport, the champion who had fallen without being hurt. I came because someone needed help, he said, and then I stayed because I realized we all do. The words moved through the crowd like a wave, but not everyone welcomed them. A group of ships appeared on the edge of the sky, dark and sharp in shape. Their leader's voice echoed through the air. You speak of unity, the voice said, but you hide behind a human. You weaken your own kind. The Queen did not move. I stand beside a human, she said. I do not hide behind him. The ships moved closer. The Queen's guard shifted, ready to act. The human stepped forward. Stop, he said, his voice carrying across the field. The enemy leader laughed. What will you do? You have no army. The human looked around at the gathered worlds. Neither do you, he said. Not here. The crowd stirred. You came here to show power, the human continued. But power only works when people are afraid of it. And right now, they're not afraid. They're tired. Silence fell. The enemy ships slowed. The Queen's daughter stepped beside him.
We are not asking you to join us, she said. We are asking you to stop pushing others away. The leader hesitated.
The gathered worlds watched. One by one, the enemy ships turned away, retreating into the sky. A sound rose from the crowd. Not a cheer, not a shout. A breath. Relief. The queen looked at the human. "You stopped a battle without lifting a weapon." He shrugged. "I just talked." Sometimes, the queen said, that is the strongest act of all. As the gathering continued, leaders and citizens approached the human and the queen's daughter. They asked questions, they shared stories, they spoke of fears and hopes. The human listened more than he spoke. Later, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky with gold and red, the queen called them both aside. "The galaxy is changing," she said, "and change needs symbols." She looked at her daughter, then at the human. "This bond," she said, "was once a decision of duty. Now it has become something else." The queen's daughter met the human's eyes. "What do you want?" she asked softly. He thought for a long moment. "I want to keep doing what we've been doing," he said. "Standing where things feel like they might fall apart." She smiled. "Then we want the same thing." The queen nodded. "Then let it be known. Not as a command. Not as an order." She raised her voice so those nearby could hear. "Let it be known that my daughter and this human walk forward together. Not because they must, but because they choose to." The message spread fast, carried by ships, by signals, by stories. On some worlds people celebrated. On others they worried. But everywhere they talked. The human and the queen's daughter returned to the royal ship, the stars greeting them once more. In the quiet of the garden, among the glowing plants and floating pools, they sat together. "Do you miss Earth?" she asked.
Every day, he said. But I think.
"I'm building another kind of home." She looked at the stars. "So am I." Time passed. The bond between worlds grew. Trade routes opened, shared missions began. Humans and aliens worked side by side, not as leaders and followers, but as partners. There were still dangers. There were still those who did not believe. But now, when trouble came, it did not come to one world alone. It came to many. One day a message arrived from a distant system. A small colony, human and alien together, had been hit by a disaster. Not an attack, but a storm of space energy that tore through their systems. The human and the queen's daughter did not wait for orders. They took a ship and went. They arrived to find broken buildings, dark skies, and frightened faces. The human moved through the ruins, helping lift debris, guiding people to safety. The queen's daughter worked with leaders, organizing shelters and support. They worked side by side, hands dirty, voices tired, hearts steady. A child, small and wide-eyed, looked up at them. "Are you the ones who make the world's friends?" the child asked. The human smiled. "We're just people who don't like seeing others hurt." The queen's daughter knelt beside him. "And we believe the universe can be kinder than it has been." The child nodded, as if that answer was enough. As they left the colony, the human looked back at the lights coming on again. One by one, he felt something deep inside him settle. Back on the royal ship, the queen stood watching the stars. "You have done what many fleets could not," she said when they returned. "You have made others believe in a future they cannot yet see." The human shook his head. "I didn't do it alone." The queen smiled. "No," she said. In the final gathering of the season, worlds sent messages of thanks, of hope, of plans to meet and work and learn from each other. The queen's daughter stood with the human at her side, not as a symbol anymore, but as a part of a growing network of trust. The stars outside burned and turned, endless and bright. The human thought of the moment he had turned his ship back toward a fading signal in a field of broken space. A simple choice. Now, that choice had become a path for many. He looked at the Queen's daughter. Do you ever think about how small things can become big things? She smiled. Every day, they stood together watching the galaxy move, not as two from different worlds, but as two who had chosen to walk the same road, and somewhere, far beyond their sight, another voice would one day call for help, and because of what they had built, many would answer.